Hello and welcome to SOFTalk, the only show on the internet that talks about D&D.
We've made that claim way too many times.
I've made it so many times. I just want a nice tagline for the show, and that one is legally questionable.
We'll put it on our merch and see what happens.
Put it on merch. We'll see what happens. Don't worry about it. Hey, thank you for joining me here, Chris.
Hey.
Would you like to do a quick introduction?
Hey. Hi. Hello, how you doing? It's me, and I'm named Chris, and I play Vincent on the Strings of Fate podcast.
Amazing. Fantastic. Love that show! We got our audio engineer in the booth right now.
A live audience.
We got a live audience, audio engineer. Yes, that is right. Chris does play Vincent on the Strings of Fate podcast, and that is the focus of today's episode of SOFTalk. Now, we've done a deep dive on Ladara. We've done a deep dive on Azram. Now to get to everyone's favorite bard, Vincent Obra.
He's my little cinnamon apple. You know,
cinnamon apple. Is
my
that
my sunshine?
The flavor you associate with Vincent, is it cinnamon apple?
Oh, flavor? Like...
First question.
Oh no, we're jumping into
minutes.
it. I didn't study. I actually think that's apples, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like apples, cinnamon, like...
Green apple?
Well, it's a little on the nose.
A little on the nose, a little...
Maybe.
A little too blunt. You know.
Red delicious apples suck.
True.
So
they're
not
really
red
grainy.
Delicious. Yeah, they're not.
A lot of audience didn't like that
one. I've got opinions on apples.
I do too. Yeah, red delicious, not great. Sorry about that. Anyways, no, our first question is not about that. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to jump into backstory, what went into making Vincent, the thought process, etc. And then we're going to take some questions from the Discord. It's going to be mostly questions from the Discord because we want to get more and more of those into the show. Thank you, Softcord, for sending in all your amazing questions. I'll just start us off with a few questions of my own just to kind of get us into the flow of things. But as a whole, this will be very casual, nice little deep dive into what makes Vincent Vincent.
Great. I love talking about him.
Amazing.
I've
Perfect.
made my whole career off of talking about him. I will continue to talk about him even when no one listens.
This is literally the perfect medium for you to do this.
I literally love him so much.
Everyone who's listening right now is down for it. And if you're not, then leave.
That's okay. I will still continue to talk about him. It's fine.
Or stay, but...
Click that like.
Hit the like before you leave. Okay, so immediately right off the bat, Vincent is kind of a difficult character to like dive into the backstory and the past of. If you've watched the show or you follow Chris on social media, this is kind of apparent as to why Vincent he's missing a lot of memories. We've kind of talked in the past, but if you want to answer this just to clarify, is everything gone in terms of memories for Vincent?
I think you and I have discussed that there is a chunk of his life that is very blurry, doesn't remember much of it, just shapes and colors.
Shapes and colors.
But not all of it is gone. He's not like, I don't know at all who I was, before insert thing here. I think he, knows in general, like where he's been. Like he remembers cities and towns that he's been through. Some people, he remembers, I think, his childhood as best as like a person can remember their childhood.
Yeah.
Like really, really young memories. But yeah, not everything is gone, but a lot of it is. Like a big chunk is.
So yeah, there's this kind of idea of what is being blocked and why it's being blocked. Like certain specifics are blurred.
Exactly.
That are like, major parts of your character, but that's so specific as it's not just all of my memories from a certain point for a certain point are gone.
Yeah.
All right. And so looking into that, let's kind of jump back to the parts that Vincent kind of does remember as much as anybody would. Vincent's childhood. I mean, what was Vincent's childhood like?
Not great. In fact, very bad.
In fact.
I feel so bad. I did all this to him. I wrote the damn backstory. So when he was a kid, like growing up, he didn't have parents. He didn't have a family. He lived on the streets and didn't have money and like had to rely on the kindness of strangers, and saw that strangers are sometimes not very kind. And he lived alone for a lot of his life and maybe became guarded because of that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, his like very young years were really rough.
And so that immediately kind of moves into this block of blurry information in which we push through. But I mean, just sort of theorizing, I mean, do you think that before this blurry period there was anyone that Vincent could rely on, any like place that held any significance to him, or do you think that it was constantly on the move, constantly on his own, you know?
Like, I'm sorry, as like a kid.
As a kid, yeah.
I always had this idea that like he maybe stayed in the same city and became extremely well adjusted to that city, like knew all the ins and outs. And I'm sure he found some community somewhere that would try to take care of him. Maybe like had one or two like people who would look out for him, but I don't think he had any really close relationships. I think that he just got by with what he could. I think I always had this idea that there was like maybe one like older woman who would like leave out food for him, you know, and like knew that he was around and like looked out for him, but I don't think he ever had like a community or family.
It's still nice though. I mean, still a very sweet little story of at least having somebody in a vast city looking out for him, which is good. Where, you know, we have to dance around that block of period, but there is the period immediately after that chunk of blurred memory. It's this period, this first point of contact with a very important item in Vincents' backstory. So this period of time between the finding this amulet, putting it on, and then meeting the Strings of Fate. How long do you think that lasted?
So he's 25 now, and I think that period of time started when he was 17.
God,
long time.
So good 8 years. 8 years. During that period of time, I mean, was he sort of cognizant during that period of time? Does he really, what was his life like during those 8 years of basically wandering, etc., traveling?
I think it was a lot like his childhood, where he was alone and relying on himself, and I think he was cognizant. Like I don't think he was just wandering and not like aware of his surroundings or himself. But I do think he was very confused.
Yeah, as one would.
He, you know, wakes up, doesn't know where he is, and just is like, I guess I am a conscious person in a body, and I don't really know what happened there, but I guess I'll just try to do what I know and feed myself, and you know. In the past 8 years, I think that he's been traveling around very, very guarded, like no friends, no allies, on his own, doing odd jobs, like working night shifts, tending bars, doing whatever he can to like keep himself alive.
I'll just see Vincent's resume. What was his past work experience?
Best work experience.
Can you explain this 10-year gap in your memory?
Yeah, I can write you out a resume. He definitely was a city trash cleaner at one point. Clean some streets.
Oh, nice.
Janitor.
Sanitation worker.
Do whatever he can, you know. Important work.
Important work. Very important
but work that not a lot of people want to do.
Good for him. Hard work.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely. And eventually you find your way over to like the western coast of the world in Siniath. I guess the initial setup was that there was a job there, but that job falls within the purviews of like adventuring, like doing stuff that could possibly be dangerous and is a little more than just like odd jobs or, you know, I mean, how acquainted was Vincent with danger by the time that he had reached Cineath?
I don't think that he was incredibly strong or like used to fighting or used to killing. Like, in fact, I think for the first couple of sessions and like first couple of things that we did, he was like pretty opposed to it. He was like, no, I don't want to throw myself in danger. Like, no, like that, I don't want to kill these people. Like, I don't know them. And he was like a very unwilling hero.
Yeah.
I think that like obviously he learned how to protect himself in like a general sense, like if somebody's trying to steal from him or something. But I don't think he was an adventurer or even wanted to be an adventurer, you know.
That makes sense. I mean, the concept of unwilling hero, I mean, where does Vincent fall in that spectrum now? Like in terms of like unwilling hero, is it still like unwilling, or is he just more comfortable with the idea of doing adventure stuff, or is he just fallen so far down the rabbit hole
he can't get out?
Yeah.
So I think another sort of thing I had in mind for him is that in the beginning he was actually very selfish, and like it was a negative quality that he learned to be better at, and now he cares about people, and he cares about his friends, he cares about like the people he's fighting for, and I think his selfishness at the beginning and like his unwillingness to help out was kind of a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And he just didn't want to get himself hurt, and now he's like, I want to help, I want to do good. So I think at this point, because he's able to help out, he's more powerful. He in his heart wants to be a good person and help people with what he's got.
That makes sense. I mean, you've definitely gained like a ton of power since you started out as Vincent, and Vincent has grown into sort of this role now where in a certain section of the world, in this little city and then maybe the surrounding area, I mean, there's been a few references to it, but he is regarded as a hero, like as an adventurer, like up there.
It's crazy to him. He's like, well, how did I get here?
Exactly. It's not just like a mercenary, but like, I don't think we play around with the concept too much, because there are places where basically like you wouldn't super be recognized, but like there are people in the world that have seen your name in newspapers and seen what reluctant photos have been taken of you or like, I guess, sketches or something along those lines, or some sort of print of Vincent Obra as hero of Cineath, adventurer, not just a mercenary, but someone who is in his own right kind of famous in an unwilling sort of way.
It's kind of funny. There's right before we started recording the podcast, there's I don't know if we posted it, the Azram clip where the Cineath wanted to congratulate the heroes and recognize the heroes in like a ceremony and give them medals, and Azram was like, I love attention, and then Ladar and Vincent were like, no thanks, you can take it all. Like Vincent, any picture of Vincent or any like interview with Vincent about that whole situation is very much like, leave me alone, I don't care. Like, don't recognize me, do not perceive me. Yeah.
And to jump ahead a little bit, I'm sure there was like a lot of those after everything that happened in Cineath. I'm sure like in your time just helping that effort to rebuild, there was plenty of people who were like, that's the hero of Cineath, can I get a couple questions from you? Like, they're gonna love this in the editorial, like that sort of thing. Which is just a funny situation to put Vincent in.
Headlines.
National coverage.
So don't screw this up.
Amazing. Even in the soft talk, you're not safe from the Spider-Man references.
Spider-Man ride references.
Vincent's had quite the arc so far, and a lot of Cineath happened with kind of like, not that it wasn't touched on at all, but like very much so that like there were things that related to your backstory and like what you had in mind for your character, but like honestly, like starting the podcast, there's more now than there ever really has been of Vincent's backstory being called into question.
Yeah, I mean, you brought in characters that for like a year and a half of playing we've never seen, or I've never told anybody about, and I'm like, oh,
it's all starting to come together. It's all coming together. No, yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to explore that. You as a player, when it gets to those moments when your backstory comes up and we don't plan these, like no one really knows what's about to happen, but like something happens and you're like, I wrote this, and you're like that's someone I recognize. Like what does that feel like? Like what goes through your mind when that happens?
It's the best. It's what I live for. I think it's so fun. There's a little bit of pressure because, you know, I want to do it right, and I want to, you know, make it interesting, and I want people to care about the backstory and play it out well. But like every time you're like, and Vincent, and I'm like, ah!
It's a little scary.
I'm excited, and I'm thrilled about it. Like I love when it comes up and I get to like explain it, because I've been sitting on Vincent lore for so long. I'm so excited to finally tell people about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to start doling it out and just being like, all right, follow this trail of lore and things that like you set up for me, which is great. Love that. Always do that for your DMs. Give them a backstory to work with.
I'm almost like, did you guys see that? Did you guys hear that one? You see that part right there? I like give it away.
It's
just
no
so
problem.
Excited about it.
And there's nothing wrong with being excited about it. Nothing wrong. I feel like it kind of almost we live in an age. we live in a society where when these storytelling mediums come out, that like especially with like D&D mediums, the excitement of the player can be felt in the audience. So when they're like, whoa, that's my backstory, a lot of people are like, oh, no way, that's the backstory. Like, some people even catch it like just like as it's happening, as the players happen, was like, oh my gosh, this person's related to so and so, and I'm like, whoa.
If this was a visual medium and you could see my face during some of the games, you would catch me so fast. You would be like, Chris looked like this. Chris gave this look.
Yeah, they would be able to pick up on our different different tells.
Be like Kill Bill sirens.
Yeah,
like
I think of my face as a little too reactive sometimes when I hear something that I'm
your
like,
poker face is so bad.
when someone makes a suggestion that like is a little like out there, but like so to the point where I'm like, I think they would die if they did that. My face just goes like.
You can't see it, but I'm seeing it now.
Just my eyes go wide and my face goes slack, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's awesome. Kind of pushing a little bit in. A lot of people in the Discord asked some of the questions I was going to ask, so it's best if we just jump right into those.
Aw, questions.
So we have a lot of questions. A lot of people want to know a lot about Vincent. This first question from Mary is about first impressions, but I will say that we have answered this one before in the other SOFTalk, so I'll most likely direct you towards there. I can probably, Christian in the future will find that answer and that timestamp, and we will get that to you. But your second question, thank you very much, is what was Vincent's first thought when seeing Renair for the first time? Which is, you know, they're a package deal at this point.
You can't have one without the other.
Can't have one without the other. So
not separate. I wish I could say love at first sight. That would be so sweet. But I think Vincent's first impression was, do I have to kill this guy? Like, who is this guy? Is he an enemy? He's in enemy territory.
He's real sketchy, yeah.
But I think there was a little voice in the back of his head. It was like, oh, he's handsome. But it was like very like clinical. It was very like, he is categorically handsome. It's objective. Yeah. It's just the way he looks.
You're like, oh man, I gotta kill this handsome guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Rough. That's nice. Yeah, I think that it was like you all had to fight some Kenkus, which were like the crow people that were working for, I think it was the Xanathar
I'm pretty
Guild.
sure it's Xanathar,
yeah. And you fought them, and then, you know, Renair just kind of popped out of a back closet, basically half tied up, being like, hello.
I was like, He was, yeah, I remember that.
Come on now, live audience. Make it comment Renair tied up. Yeah, but yeah, that makes sense. It definitely wasn't a situation which you'd be like, wow, I love this man.
Yeah, he wasn't smitten at first glance. I think he was more like, what is this dude doing here?
Very fair. On to our next question from Kat. They ask, what's Vincent's dream in life? Which is a more broad, overarching question. Does Vincent have a big dream that he's aspiring towards, or is everything a little too present right now, like his current goals and problems?
I don't know that he has the room to dream. I don't think he has the time or the energy.
So sad.
Yeah, I think he's like really preoccupied with helping his friends and staying alive. I don't think he's allowed himself to dream.
Do you think there's ever been a moment in the recent game or in the past few months in game where Vincent's kind of let himself slip and allowed himself to dream a little bit?
I think so. I think especially, I don't know if we can say spoilers and drop in a spoiler.
Yeah, we can say spoilers and say, hey,
spoilers,
little spoiler
for around episode 18, 19 or something. When Renair brought up like the idea of a quiet life, I think Vincent had thought about it before, and the idea of being able to be away from a city and away from danger and like live in a nice, like, happy home. Yeah, I think that is maybe the only time he's allowed himself to kind of dream.
That's nice. That's very nice. That makes sense though. Yeah, you are constantly assailed by danger, and you know, you had a few months of rest, but kind of knowing that this next journey was literally across the world as you know it, it makes sense that there would be this kind of hesitance to get, you know, optimistic about that. But yeah. I'm sure Renair's on the other side of that spectrum a little bit, where he dares to dream, etc.
The other thing about Vincent is that he never has had like a physical home. As far as he knows, he's never like had a bed that was his, other than in Cineath. It was like the first time that he had any particular, like any permanent living situation. And he was like, I don't care if it's shitty, it's mine. Like, so I think the idea of having like a permanent home is like a really big dream for him. It would mean a lot to him.
Very fair, very fair. I mean, is Vincent, I guess this is a question I should ask everybody, but is everyone down with the camping on cots and lying in the grass sort of deal that you've had to do for the past few weeks?
Vincent is a cat. He'll sleep anywhere. He's fine with it. He'll sleep on the floor. You know, we know that Lidar sleeps on the floor.
Out of preference.
Prefers it.
Just prefers the floor in general. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. The next question comes from Mary, but I think that we can answer this together. When did Vincent first find out that he was capable of doing magic? This one might be a blurry spot for Vincent.
I don't think he knows.
Yeah.
I think he's just kind of always known how to do it since he can remember, and it's all a blur before that. It's
like, you know, out of nowhere you're like, oh, I can ride a bike. Don't really remember the process.
I don't remember learning how to, but I know it.
But I can, like that sort of thing. So I'm sorry, Mary, but it is a good question that maybe will be answered someday. So keep an eye out on that. Next one's from Ariel. Did you
proofread these?
Yeah, I did, and I was looking, and I was like, this one's got a lot of laughing reacts. And I looked, and it was, Vincent, please drop your eyebrow care routine. They are glorious. He's got great eyebrows.
He just grows them.
He just grows them.
They just are like that.
Perfect. Very nice. Very beautiful. Amazing. Thank you for the question.
Thanks for the question.
That's the routine. Just grow them out.
Honestly, Vincent's a little bit grubby sometimes, so, you know.
I never imagined Vincent as like a grubby person, like a grimy.
So Vincent, his like physical appearance and like the way that he like grooms himself, I think is a direct correlation of like how he's doing mentally. So I think if you see me drawing him like hair back, like feeling like
skincare routine,
skin looking glowing, like nice clothes, like it's because he's in a good state of mind. But I think at the very beginning, when he first found the Strings of Fate, he was very grubby, he was very grimy, had not showered in weeks.
This guy kind of stinks.
He's kind of nasty, like beard outgrown, like circles under the eyes, like he's a little sewer rat a little bit. But it's only when he can't, like, you know, find it in him to take care of himself.
That's no problem. That is no problem. Next question comes from Izzy, who asks, has Vincent met anyone else from his past that he can't remember?
That's a DM. I don't know. Not as far as I know. Has anybody showed up that you were like, oh, Vincent doesn't know about this one? No.
I think I've made it pretty explicit when you meet someone from your past. That goes kind of into the pre-podcast. Pre-podcast stuff. There really wasn't anyone from Vincent's past that showed up. Mm-hmm. There were people that certainly Vincent was involved with in terms of narrative stuff, but they weren't from his past, or at least he doesn't remember if they were from his past, etc. On to the next question from Goose, who asks, what's Vincent's favorite place the party has ever been to? Which, you know, you haven't traveled a ton like outside of Cineath with each other. But so far, out of all the places, which, you know, there's been, I think, a few big ones, I'd say. Not just Goldstead and Weldon, but there's also I guess there's the little rest stop you all had with Bonnie in the flower field, etc.
Oh man. I think maybe spoilers for the last couple episodes. I don't remember when we actually got to it, but the temple under the water. I think he thought was really fascinating.
Yes.
That he thought it was like really, really cool.
It's definitely I'm glad to show you all more and more magical places, which is nice, is what we're heading towards, if that makes sense. Things getting a little more fantastical. But yeah, that makes sense.
I also think one of his favorite places in like Cineath, because like you said, they stayed in Cineath a lot, I think was the Blackstaff's Tower. Yeah. I think he really liked just being surrounded by books and knowledge, and like he had allies there, and like when his friends were there, like I think he just found like a kind of second home there. Really liked it.
I mean, Vincent's a big fan of all the magical stuff. That's it was one of those things where it's like, I wish I had more of an arc to explore the, you know, Vincent's relationship with the Blackstaff Tower, but maybe a different time. There will be a time to explore Vincent's sort of path as a wizard, which was on the table for a while.
He almost was a wizard.
I usually have these answers kind of lined up because like I've asked them before, but the only one I really remember is Adjnor's because it's so long. Because Kat asks again, what's Vincent's favorite food?
Oh man, I'm always really bad at food questions because I myself eat like 3 different meals at any given point, and I cycle through them. So I don't know what food exists. I think at one point I said that Vincent's favorite food was sauerkraut.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Which I think still tracks.
It's good, I feel like.
I think it tracks.
Have you ever had sauerkraut?
Yeah, it was kind of a wild experience.
Oh.
I had sauerkraut on like a sandwich, and then I was like, oh my god, my stomach feels like it's destroying itself. And then it knocked me out for like 6 hours.
I remember that.
And I woke up and I was like, I feel better than I ever have in my entire life.
It was a detox.
I got sauerkraut detoxed. Just bombed my body with sauerkraut, and it was like,
it was a wellness check.
It literally was like, as soon as I ate it, I saw like a little notification pop up that was like, your computer will restart in 3 minutes to install updates, and I was like, okay. So it makes sense. I mean, maybe Vincent needs a little detox with some sauerkraut. We haven't had sauerkraut in game in a long time.
Oh man, I think I also had this thought on the way over to record this, but I think that Vincent's taste buds are maybe a little bit fucked up, and that he likes burnt food. and will eat like nasty stuff and not even flinch. Like I think he's got like a very open palate. I don't think he's picky. He'll
That's
just like
awesome.
eat a completely burnt piece of toast and just be like fine with it.
It's just char.
Yeah.
Just charcoal at that point. But
I also do think he likes spicy food. Like he just like enjoys it and has like a really high spice tolerance.
I'm gonna have to throw more. I mean, I really want to throw more food stuff in hopes that someone out there comes up with a cookbook
Oh my
or
gosh.
something. It's like one of my other ulterior goals with this show is to have,
Softpod cookbook.
to have a soft pod cookbook. So I'm just gonna start throwing recipes out there.
See the softball cookbook that I found?
Yeah, people are talking about it.
Oh, I think I did see something about it like in passing, and I was like, yeah, nice.
Vincent's potatoes, tapped water, ingredients,
Tapped water.
water, finger.
Water finger. Knowing it was Yarlaxle doing that.
Yeah.
An extra level of what the fuck.
It's so funny.
Izzy asks again, what made you want to design him with goat eyes?
Oh, I think so. There's an artist who I follow who had a character who's a tiefling with like goat motifs, and I was like, I like that. I'm gonna steal it. I think their name is Ron Koza. I could be pronouncing it wrong.
Oh, I know who you're
You know what
talking
I'm
about.
talking
Yeah.
Yeah, great artist. Commissioned them to draw Vincent once. It looks so good.
That's fantastic.
But I was like, the goat motif, I like it. I've seen a couple other like goat tieflings, and I'm like, every time I see it, I love it.
Super cool. Great question. Valerie asked something that we kind of touched on a little bit, but we can go into a little more detail. What is Vincent's first memories post memory wipe? And was he already a bard by then?
He was a bard. He's been a bard for a very long time. The other question, I don't know that I know. What do you think? What do you think, DM?
In my head, when I first read the backstory, I always imagined like the first feelings that Vincent felt were like empty confusion immediately into dread, where you have this amulet, and we've never gone into how the amulet was, where it was, like where you got it from.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna go into that. But you were in a situation where immediately you're like, I have this, I have to go.
Yeah.
Like I just get as far away from here as possible.
Right. Just
And,
flight.
yeah, just like a mad scramble of like immediately imagine you are born and you're like fight or flight. You're like immediately like literally like you're fresh, you wake up and you're like, I guess it's the feeling of like waking up when you fell asleep when you weren't supposed to, and
Yeah.
being like, oh god,
Oh my God,
and
oh my
throwing
God, oh my
yourself
God.
into like a frenzy until
Then
you
also
reach your
just not
destination.
knowing why you have to do it.
Exactly.
Like,
I think definitely there was some influence of like, they're coming, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh god.
yeah. I think that tracks.
That makes sense. That's always how I imagined it, and I'm sure we'll go further into that in the show. But yeah, that's always my thought.
I sort of also imagine that like for like a week or like a few days after, it was a lot of like complete confusion and like where the fuck am I, and like I don't remember certain things and blacking out and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Very much tracks. We'll have to have like a Vincent's Lost Days episode.
Yeah.
Where it's just Vincent going through the motions immediately after.
I'll make an
his
origin
memories.
comic. It's fine.
Or yeah, exactly. Well, you saw an origin comic. Let's move on to the next question here. Odd asks, is there anything? Odd asks, is there anything specific that got him interested in fashion? What are some of his favorite looks? At some point, did that happen at Cineath, or did that happen on his way to Cineath? At what point did he start saying like, I like how my clothes look, like that sort of thing?
So I think Vincent always had an eye for fashion and like had expensive taste, but never could afford to show it. I think like he also, when he was younger, recognized that like fashion was a sign of wealth and power, both things that he resented. But I think he always, somewhere in him, like wanted to just feel like, he had control over that, and he had the ability to look nice. And I think as he got older and was able to finally like make money, especially once he started doing adventuring jobs where he made a lot of money, he was like, I can finally buy the things that I like and that make me feel good and make me feel nice. At the beginning of the podcast, like his outfit was very nice, like expensive, like magical coat, like embroidered, like silk shirt, like very much like nice. And I think because at the end of the Cineath arc into the podcast, I think he was in a really good spot mentally and also definitely financially. But I think he was like, I can treat myself to something. And I think he just is like excited about fashion. I think he just likes it.
Very nice. Glad to hear. Yeah, Vincent's got a great fashion sense.
It's also fun for me.
It's also very
because
fun.
Because I get to design the clothes.
Yeah. It's good. You didn't design a character. You're like, canonically, he doesn't like fashion.
He actually wears cargo shorts.
He wears cargo shorts.
I didn't design a Renair.
If Renair knew what cargo shorts were, he would wear them.
They're so convenient. They have so many pockets.
I like them. They cover my knees. I still get the little airflow around my calves. It's very nice.
Didn't you? This is not about Vincent, but didn't you say that at one point Renair like has like a huge closet, only ever wears like the same thing?
He's got a lot of the same outfit, and my thing about Renair has always been that like he was high society, in that he kind of just fell into it, and like he didn't really ask for that, but you know he recognizes that. But in terms of fashion, someone told him he looks good in blue once, and he has like 3 blue tunics that he like cycles through and washes, and then he's just like, yeah, this is my look. So
that's so funny.
Almost always wearing the same thing, always. So
absolutely clueless on fashion. Vincent will have to help him.
Absolutely clueless on fashion. Absolutely so. Andy asks, what is his favorite kind of music to play? Also, does he restring his violin as much as he should? Which I don't know what the answer to that is. So I'll look it up.
Favorite type of music? I don't know. I think he plays whatever he's got in his little mental library of memorized things, which is a lot. I do think that he's composed his own music before. Like, I do think that he's written his own music, and maybe that is his favorite. He absolutely does restring his violin as often as he needs to. He takes immaculate care of that violin. It is his prized possession. Looks
like 9 to 12 months is the answer, so we're coming up on it.
He's absolutely going to do it. He does it more than necessary because that violin is his baby.
Amazing. Fantastic. Rowan asks, does he have a favorite spell that he casts?
So his like go-to in battle to like do damage is heat metal, and I like it.
Great spell.
I like it. The flavor. I like being able to use people's like weapons against them. I think the ones that he's most fascinated by are like his most recent ones, like True Seeing, Private Sanctum, like things that feed into his interests, like the plane travel and interplanar travel, and being able to see in a different plane. Like, that's so fascinating to him, and I don't think it's anything that he's ever really heard of before. Like, it's like we've heard this in the game and also in the other soft talks that like magic is very experimental in this world. So anything that he gets that's like new, he's like so excited about.
There's a lot of magic to discover. There's a lot of magic to learn, and so I think it's very good for Vincent.
Let me learn teleport.
Well, we'll see on that one. We'll see what happens there. Next question, important question. Orion asks, is he all right? Is he okay?
Not even a little bit.
Is Vincent okay? Be honest.
No, not even in the slightest. And that's my fault. I feel bad.
I take a little bit of responsibility.
Yeah,
I've done
okay.
a lot at the dude over
Yeah,
the years.
It is partially your fault.
I
Thank
carried
you.
co-responsibilities into making Vincent not okay. But
He's not okay. Yeah. No.
in my head, there's, it's all one of those things where eventually it's going to be like, hell yeah, super okay.
Eventually he'll be okay.
That'd be
If things
great.
go right, he will be okay. But he has suffered quite a bit.
Yeah, he really has. We put him through the ringer.
It's fine. It's fun. It's character building.
Andy asks if he could have one perfect day where he could do anything he wanted, what would his day/evening look like?
Aw. Well, I definitely think he'd be either alone or with just like the very few people he likes. I think he would never admit this because he would think that it was selfish or that he didn't deserve it, but I think he, somewhere in him, wants to be taken care of. So like someone cooking for him or like just looking out for him. I think he would love a day like that. It'd be nice.
You're on the right track, I'll say. the correct, what's the word I'm looking for? Dialogue path.
Yeah.
That's very nice. It's very nice. Auda's got, kind of related in a way. Auda's got 3 questions wrapped up in one, but I think they're all good. First one being, what is Vincent's favorite thing about Renair?
Aww. Oh man. So many things. I think what he loves the most about him is that he's got a really big heart. And he's just very good. He like wants to do good. He's consistently doing good. And I think also the fact that like being around Renair makes Vincent feel like he's capable of being good too. Yeah, I think that he likes that the most about him.
Very nice. Second question being, what does Vincent think Renair's favorite thing about him is?
Oh, he wouldn't be able to tell you. He's like, what does
no idea.
What does that man see in me? I have no idea.
Then the last one is, when did Vincent first realize that he liked Renair?
I think it was, we talked about the trip up north before where Ladar got stabbed.
Oh,
Always have to bring up that one.
Are you saying that he realized that?
No, it was
liked on the
before
same
that.
trip?
It was before that. We were traveling through a city and stopped at a tavern and like stayed at the night, and they shared a bed.
Oh, yeah, there was only
There's
one.
only one
bed.
bed.
Oh my goodness.
I think up to that point, Vincent was like, yeah, he's attractive, but like he's just objectively attractive, right? Like I'm not attracted to him. Like that's not like a thing. I don't do that. I don't, that's not for me. Why would he wouldn't even like me in the first, like he wouldn't even like me back in the first place, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden it like hit him like a truck, and he was like, no,
No, God.
it ruined his life. He was like, I can't believe it.
Amazing. Great scene. I actually think there is like a mini comic of that scene.
There is, but it's bad. Don't look it up. I'll
We
redraw
could
it.
cut that. Maybe it would like, but it's good. In my eyes, it's very good.
Aw, thanks.
Anyways, but that I remember that scene. It was very good. I also just remember that surprisingly, it came about completely naturally.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have it
Oh.
written where I was like,
It was-
oh yeah, there will be only one bed.
I remember because it was they just ended up in the same bed,
Yeah.
and then I was like, and you're like, what? And I was like, I'm just trying to decide if Vincent tosses in his sleep. And then you rolled a percentage dice, and you were like, he does. And then you rolled again, and you said, Renair does too.
Yeah. It was waking up in a bit of a tangle.
In a pickle,
In a bit of a pickle. A fantastic scene.
Question for you. Please answer.
Oh.
I want to know, what is Renair's favorite thing about Vincent? He never talks about how much he likes Vincent.
You don't want to have that talking game? I almost said something else by
Whoa!
accident. So you don't want to have that talk in game? I feel like you'll have to
That's
discover
fine.
this one.
I guess I'll discover it. It's fine.
No.
But I'm curious. Renair
The
soft talk?
Renair soft talk. Oh.
Do people want a Renair soft talk? Yeah. I want a Renair soft talk. I want to know what's going on in that dude's brain.
Da, da, da. We will see. We will see. Lisa asks, where did Vincent's interest in the other planes come from?
I think in two parts. The first part is that he's just fascinated by magic, and like magic comes from different planes of existence sometimes, and he's just got a general interest in that. But also, the second part is that I think he kind of went down a rabbit hole when he figured out that like his amulet could be connected to Feywild stuff. I think it's kind of the same feeling that like as a hypochondriac when I like Google my symptoms and I learn all of the things about all these illnesses that I could have. I think it's part of that. It was just like panic one night at like 3 a.m. in the Mages Academy, like the like looking up like everything you could about
what are my
the
symptoms?
Feywild. Yeah.
Pixies.
Yeah.
Well, you will probably have to have a talk to see what Vincent knows, because I recently fleshed out a lot of Feywild stuff for no particular reason.
No reason at all.
I recently fleshed out a lot of like what that looks like.
She looked
side eye
from across the room.
But I very recently fleshed out a lot of Feywild stuff to try and figure out some things about what it looks like and the political structures, etc. But we'll move on to the next question then, which is Savvy, who asks, what's the first song Vincent learned to play on the violin? Do you think he'd remember this?
I don't know.
It might be blurry, right?
It might be blurry. I think whatever he learned it very quickly. I don't think it was like hot cross buns.
Hot cross buns, yeah. I think that we can definitively say it was not hot cross buns is the answer. But I think that's one of those things that will slowly be revealed at some point.
And also, I don't know what kind of, when it comes to like songs, it's like what songs from our real world are we going to put into
that we're going to say Vincent invented?
Yeah.
The violin version of Country Roads.
Because now if we put real music into our world, then that means Beethoven is real in your Afra.
Is it Beethoven? Or do we have to compose a new piece for him? It's entirely...
I know.
We'll just have to see.
Michaela.
I'll just have like fantasy.
Start composing some violin tracks, please. Thank you.
I'll have like fantasy
Ignored.
Beethoven, fantasy Mozart. So, kind of connected to that, Magical Miss Malin asks, what made Vincent first fall in love with music?
I don't know if I can say it. I don't know if it's blurry or if it might come up.
It might be. I know there's a lot. It might come. I think it absolutely will come up.
Yeah.
And so to give you, let's see. How can we give like a...
I'll say that there was a moment.
There was definitely a moment that is specific.
Yeah.
It will just have to...
You'll have to figure it out. I feel like once everything is revealed, I'll be able to like kind of go into every bit of that section of his life.
Of 2 Vincent SOFTalks, and one of them will be dedicated to the first half of his life.
Yeah. This is Vincent SOFTalk Part 1.
This next question is a spoilery one, which means that if you haven't watched past, I think this was around like episode 6 or 7, like a little bit into the Weldon arc, like just like the first few episodes. Olivia, Dungeon Depths, thank you Dungeon Depths, they asked, how is Vincent feeling about his memory loss since Archie's appearance? Did learning that he had a family who are potentially still out there change his perspective? Is he eager to find them and try to remember more of his past with them? How does it feel now that he's kind of given you a basic outline of people that you do know and you don't remember, meaning that they've been suppressed for some reason?
Yeah, I think he definitely wants to find them. I think he mentioned it in like the conversation with Renaer after they'd met Archie, where he was like, I didn't think that my life had any happy moments. Like his life has been pretty rough, and like knowing that maybe he has somebody in his past that's worth remembering, and like a part of his life that was happy that he just doesn't, it was taken from him. I think he wants to get it back. I think he wants to know who he is, and like more than anything wants to know who he was. I think he's not fully processed it. He hasn't really had an opportunity to talk to Archie a lot, and the idea of having like a family who cares about him. It makes him excited and happy, but also scares him, you know, that he can't remember them. Because he's empathetic to the fact that, like, if he was like, he's empathetic to the fact that if they found him and were like, hey, we've been looking for you, we care about you, and he's like, I don't know who you are, like, that sucks. So he's like afraid of that. He's afraid of like meeting them again. But I think he does want to recover the memories that he lost, and like he wants to know them again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's plenty of time to figure that out. But moving down the line, going a little bit outside of Vincent's backstory, outside of Vincent, into more of Vincent as a character, Faye asks, what are some other concepts / timelines you had considered for Vincent's character during his creation? Any other classes, design, or goals that were different from now?
Well, his design was very different, but I don't think it was because I think it was because I couldn't draw him the way that I wanted to. Like, I always envisioned him the way that he looks now, but I just didn't have the tools as an artist to, like, make him look like that. So he's been quite similar in, like, my head this whole time. He was always, like, a bad bard, great musician, bad with people, cranky, closed off. I think in the very beginning, the whole like memory loss thing was not part of his backstory. Like, he did remember things. There was a point where I said a name from my backstory because at that point I was like, oh, he remembers that person. And I don't know if anybody remembers that I said the name. It was a very long time ago.
Yeah, even I'm struggling to fully remember it.
I won't bring it up again then. But yeah, the memory loss thing was something that came along later. At a certain point, I decided I maybe wanted to multi-class into wizard, but then I realized that multi-classing isn't fun to play.
Yeah, it's a little wild.
For me, it's not very fun. But the concept I really like, you know. I think it makes sense for him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think maybe it's one of those things that, you know, figure something out later down the line, whether it's like a feat or like magic initiate feat, etc., something like that.
Yeah, but in general, he's been pretty consistent. Like, he's been pretty similar to what he used to be.
Very good. Very good. Issa asks, what are things Vincent admires about his friends and what frustrates him about them? Same for himself, is what frustrates him about himself and what does he admire about himself?
Oh, he doesn't admire much about himself.
Oh, ooh.
He's very frustrated with a lot of things about himself. I think the only thing he is confident in himself is his like musical ability. I think that's the only thing. It's kind of sad. He needs to work on it. In terms of his friends, if we're talking Ladara and Azuram, I think he admires that Azuram is so charismatic. And I think because he does not know how to be like that, he has no idea how Azuram does it. I think with Ladara, he admires obviously like her skill and how competent she is at things, but also I think that like she's very smart and capable and like she's taken care of herself for so long, and I think he really respects her for that. I think the thing that frustrates him about both of them is the same thing in different fonts, which is both of them are bad at being vulnerable emotionally.
In different fonts.
Azuram deflects with humor, and Ladara just doesn't talk about her problems. And I think that he's like, I just want to help my friends, and I don't know how. I don't even know how to like begin to be there for people.
Exactly, how to break down that wall, etc. I mean, we're making progress, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like we save the world together. We're friends, but you know, now let's figure out your relationship with your father. Like, let's figure out, you know, that why all this happened, etc.
Yeah, and also Vincent has never had like a lot of very close relationships, so It's all new for him. All of it is like having very close friends who care about him and look out for him, that he wants to look out for. Is just, it's all new.
Okay.
Doesn't know how to do it.
Fantastic. Raina asks, what made Vincent play violin? Which I think is a question that might be...
I think it's the same as the other one.
Behind a paywall. Behind a little blurry, like a fogged wall. And the follow-up to that was, did he ever try any other instruments, or does he want to learn any others? Which I think the last part we can answer. Does he want to learn any other instruments?
He knows a lot of instruments. He's kind of a...
Bard?
I don't know that I've said anything about this on the actual like podcast, but like he's a prodigy. Like he knows how to pick up any instrument. Like he's extremely talented.
Hell yeah.
He has like different instruments on him. Like he's got a dulcimer, he's got a flute. Like yeah, he loves the one of his hyperfixations is like the construction and like the care of instruments. He finds them very fascinating. I think anytime he comes across something he's never seen before and he's like, I want to learn how to play that.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think he's definitely like always really interested.
Yeah, definitely. Start busting out more of those instruments just
I know.
randomly.
I'm just going to
pull
be
out my
like,
flute.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the last episode. I was like, I have a flute, and then...
Oh, flute. Very nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other two, unfortunately, you'll have to see by watching the Strange Faith podcast every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Isa also asks, does Vincent read romance novels?
Oh.
Is this where the majority of his romantic experience / knowledge comes from? Very indicting. Very accusatory words.
I had this funny little idea that he likes romance novels. Yeah. I think he would absolutely never tell anyone. I think he would be so embarrassed to, especially if Azram found out. Be like, oh, like reading a little. Oh. I think Vincent likes them. I think he's never actually wanted to initiate romance with anybody in particular before Renera. I think he's liked the idea of romance though. He's a romantic at heart, so I think he would read them and then be like, well, that's not realistic, but like I'll read it anyway.
Oh jeez. Well, I'll just see.
I think that is maybe where most of his knowledge about romance comes from. But I do think that he knows that it's not realistic.
Yeah.
He's very cynical. He knows. He's like, that couldn't happen.
Sure. Makes sense. Favorite tags? No, I'm just kidding.
What?
And that was
No.
completely out of nowhere. We can cut that. Anyways, actually, kind of.
Hashtag slow burn. Yeah.
Slow burn. Great. Absolutely. He's experiencing it currently still, even after all this time.
God. It's been so long.
Lauren asks, and then this is a little bit further back towards Vincent as a character. For the fanfic writers, what are some things you'd like for them to keep in mind when writing Vincent?
I don't know. Just whatever you hear on the podcast. You probably know him pretty well by now.
Any specific requests?
I don't know. He is not a very nice person, and he is kind of an asshole, but always remember deep down that he does care about his friends. He's not completely an asshole. He's a soft spot. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like you'll get a good grasp on him if you listen to the show. Yeah,
Chris does a very good job of characterizing Vincent.
Oh, thanks.
Making it very clear what type of character he is. So, I think, if there's anything specific that comes to mind, just let me know.
Yeah.
We'll throw it into the soft talk here.
Also, if you ever want to headcanon him as trans, do it.
Go for it.
He's
Absolutely.
trans now.
Let's go.
Transgender. Go for it.
Transgender. let's see here. I think this. Oh yeah, very recent episode spoilers. Very recent. This is like literally the previous. No, like episode 29 or 28. No, 29. Yeah. So, I'll give you a second here to pause, mute. Okay, good. So, Jordan asks, scale of 1 to 10, how close was Vincent to fully just punching Astera when they talked face to face? This figure that has been tormenting you for like 20 episodes at this point.
Oh man, the urge was at a 15. The urge was at a 15, but also he was like, you must think me a goddamn fool if you think I'm gonna try to like punch you in your own domain, like fight you in your own domain where I don't have any of my weapons. Like this might not even be like, this could be just like an illusion. Like I could not be physically here. I'm not gonna look like an idiot. I'm not gonna do that to myself. But the urge was very much there. Oh man, he wants Astera dead.
And him in a ditch.
He wants a few people dead.
Damn. Very nice. Lay up the list.
Yeah, Vincent hates very fiercely.
Very good to know. Lauren also asks, how do you balance playing an angst-filled character like Vincent, someone who's got a lot of sadness, a lot of bad things happening all the time, and then still have fun playing?
See, the angst is fun for me.
All right.
I think it's fun.
That's all you have to do. Lean into the angst.
I think it's fun. I think he's got a fun sense of humor. Like he can, he's not always like, I hate my life. Like he can hang. He can make a joke or two.
Fantastic. Yeah, he definitely. I know that there definitely is a lot of well-earned angst for Vincent, but yeah, I don't see him as a character that's just like a downer, etc.
Yeah.
In the narrative where you're like he's always angsty. I feel like he's made a lot of good attempts at like humor and like understanding, despite that everything is kind of stacking up against him in terms of like angst factor, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but also just in general, like I do enjoy the angst scenes. I think they're very fun. When you're like, and then you're like, oh, you don't remember that, and then it's like really sad. I'm like, this is so fun for me.
Everyone's in tears, and you're like, hell yes,
I'm having the time of my life.
I'm glad to hear. There's plenty of more to come.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Jordan also asks, sorry, I started wrong. Excuse me. Isaac asks, if you had to pick 3 to 4 other fictional characters to summarize Vincent with, who would they be? Just who was the inspiration that you were like, looked at their archetype and you're like, hell yeah, I want this for my character?
Kayla Budogast.
Right off the bat.
Completely honest. Fujimoto from Ponyo. Ponyo's dad. They have
Ponyo's dad.
Same energy. Man, I don't know. Those two come to mind.
No problem. I mean, that's a pretty good mix already, right there.
Just worried.
Both redheaded characters turned into a green man that loves redheads.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. Super cool. Venus asks a few things. I think the first one we kind of touched on a little bit, which is what sparked his interest in magic. I think where there is most likely a moment that's in the blurry memories that might be there. I think very recently there is another thing that's kind of continually sparking his interest in magic, which kind of ties into his whole adventure, if that makes sense, his backstory in terms of the amulet and everything along those lines. If there's anything else that may keep his spark in magic going that we haven't talked about, let me know.
I think just a general fascination for it. I don't think there was any, and as far as he knows, any like inciting events. I think he's just always thought it was cool and always thought it was helpful.
Extremely cool. Absolutely. The second one's a little more specific, which is what's Vincent's favorite tea?
I think he likes a nice black tea. maybe a chai, I think he likes tea that's a little spicy.
A little spicy?
Got a little kick to it.
Like it? Very cool.
Yeah, he loves tea. He loves a lot of different types of tea.
Very nice. There's plenty of tea in the world to try. I need to come up with more unique, magical ones.
Magic tea.
Magic tea. It exists.
Christian, we could put that. That's merchandise, baby.
We make tea now. We just make magical tea now. It's actually magic.
It'll do your taxes.
And it'll help you do your taxes.
Yeah.
It doesn't for you. And the last one from Venus is, if you had to describe Vincent with one famous piece of artwork, which would he be and why?
Only one?
A combination. Give me the art gallery.
Man.
If you walked into an art gallery and it was like, the theme of it is Vincent Obra.
Oh, shit.
It's in the MoMA.
Oh my god. Why did you do this to me, Venus? Why did you do this to me? Only one. Well, I mean, his namesake, like Vincent Van Gogh, like I think I think more of artists rather than like their specific works. I think Vincent Van Gogh's work and just the story that people tell about like Van Gogh being a very sad man who never got recognized until after his death. Resonates a lot with him,
Doctor Who brought him.
Until Doctor Who brought him back.
The Doctor brought him to modern time to see his art gallery.
I also, now that I'm thinking about it, Caravaggio. Do you know any of Caravaggio's works? If you Google Caravaggio and you might recognize some of, or at least the style that he painted in. Caravaggio.
Yes.
Not only like the aesthetics of his work, like the colors and the compositions, but also like his work deals with a lot of like dark concepts like death and like
yes,
violence. Not only that, but also Caravaggio himself was a piece of work.
Choose your words.
Very much a like hot-headed like troublemaker, like got in a lot of fights and like got into scraps with like police officers. It was like kind of a loose cannon. And I feel like that in my head, the correlation of that painter and his work to Vincent makes sense.
Makes sense. Perfect. That's awesome. Loose cannon.
Loose cannon.
The loose cannon of the art world.
Yeah.
Amazing. I've seen these paintings before, especially this beheading one.
No, that one, there is another version of that, the beheading by Artemisia, which I love so much.
Ooh.
Judas Slaying Holofernes, which I don't think is very Vincent, but it is one of my favorite paintings. It is very graphic, so if you look it up and you're listening to this, warning. Beheading. But the cool thing about that one is Artemisia painted herself into the painting, slaying her abuser.
Hey!
It fucking rocks.
That's awesome.
She rocked. Anyway.
Very cool.
Art history lesson.
Thank you very much. We only got I think we only got two more. I'm going to move to this last one because I want to end on the other one. This last one is Connor asking, what is Vincent's favorite song? Does Vincent have a favorite song? I know that it goes into like describing real life songs.
Yeah.
Let's just, the way that I do that a lot in game is just describing if there's like a song that like a particular story or just like a feeling. But if we can't answer that one without diving into the blurry parts, we may have to track it back a little bit.
Well, I think there's one song that he has played for Renair that I think he always associates with Renair, which is like a very romantic and sweet song. So I think maybe that's one of his favorites.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
I think it was like there was a point in the game where like he only played for Renair and that was the song he chose, and it was like before they had gotten together, and he just associates that with him now.
It's a great song.
Very sweet.
And now the very last question is not really a question at all, but more of just a big ask, which is everything possible about Soup. Please just let us know. The familiar.
My little guy.
Why the little guy? How's he doing?
He's
How's he
doing
feel?
great. I feel like I think for the first couple like 20 episodes of the podcast, I never specified that he was his familiar and was a ferret and not like actual Soup.
Just Soup that appears,
I summoned Soup.
just falls on the ground.
Yeah, Soup's great. Soup was he came about because I got a scroll one time, because Vincent doesn't actually know how to cast Find Familiar.
Yeah.
So he only cast it once, and if Soup goes, Soup is gone.
Yeah, that's true. He came into a close call with the High Priest, which, you know, a little bit of spoilers, but he had a close call.
Yeah, so Vincent's very careful about Soup and sending him in places because he doesn't want to lose that little guy. The name, I made it up on the spot, and I never changed it.
Amazing.
I'm justifying it by saying that Vincent's bad at naming things.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I understand.
I
Is he
love
always around? Is he always like...
I think he comes in and out of existence. I think Vincent probably does, like, you know, takes him out whenever he's like in need of a, you know, reassurance, comfort. But oh man, I love Soup. I love that little guy. I love ferrets.
Love ferrets.
Send me ferret videos, everyone, please.
Great familiar. Great job. Soup always coming in clutch. Always from Jacques. Thank you very much, Jacques. And with that,
Jackie? I don't know.
JACQ?
I don't know.
Jack?
Oh,
because it is Jack Attack on the Jacques Attack.
Jacques.
So sorry. That one was
Jacques Attack.
Oh my god.
You're never gonna live that down if you keep that in.
I almost want to and just apologize right here and say, hey Jack, sorry about that.
That's so funny.
I just read the full username and Jack Attack makes so much more sense, and I called you Jacques Attack. Sorry about that. Thank you for the Soup question. Love Soup. Really loving it.
I love Soup.
Hey, thank you for joining me for Vincent's SOFTalk here. This has been a great time talking about Vincent. Is there any more closing information you want to tell about Vincent? Anything that you think might not come up that you're like, I want you to know this right now?
Well, I think maybe giving people context about the Swords of Fortune and like the things that happened in the podcast that people know, or out of the podcast in the campaign that the characters know about.
We touched on it very briefly in the pre-podcast, but we can go into that a little bit as like a little ender here to give you a little bit more relevance on the Swords of Fortune.
Yeah.
We've talked about it like kind of, this is not spoilers for in the podcast because this is all stuff that's happened before the podcast, etc. It'll probably come up again, and I'll do a refresher in the show if they do come up again, which this is my little thing, a little wink wink that like,
probably.
Yeah, they're probably gonna come up again.
But it'll give it more weight, I think.
Absolutely.
When people know the kind of context of what Vincent's sort of been through here.
Yes, Vincent has had 2 encounters in Cineath with people that are very the first one not very antagonistic, but kind of just a shitty guy.
He was just kind of a dude.
Yeah, who they were asked to, you know, I think it was you're asked by a lieutenant of the Xanathar Guild to, I think it was like collect on some debts or to just fully make sure that intimidate someone out of ever coming back to an establishment, because he was just like a terrible dude.
And Vincent was like, I don't care. I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
What did he ever do to me?
Exactly. You had no context for who this person was.
Yeah.
You were like, you'd heard some things, but also you had no idea if those were true or not. And when you saw him, something kind of kicked into gear.
Yeah. Immediately on site.
Yeah. Something that has not been shown in the podcast, which is a moment of lost control and a fierce battle later. I mean, that guy ends up pretty much done.
Yeah. I was not piloting Vincent during that fight. You were like, roll strength check. That was a 27. I was like, Vincent's not that strong.
Yeah, Vincent definitely.
It's very scary.
It was a really intense moment. It was one of the bigger moments of the pre-podcast campaign. But slowly doing more research into that person, you found out that they're part of a very famous, now retired adventuring party called the Swords of Fortune, which just kind of came along, I guess, with the Feywild research and stuff like that. So not only is this, you've killed this person, but this person who, much like you are now, was regarded as a hero by a lot of people.
And he never knew why. He was like, why did I turn so fast? Why did I hate this guy so quickly? He doesn't even like remember most of that fight.
And then Ladar took his dog. That's a different story.
He never even liked her. That poor dog.
Gerald that turned around at the end, but Gerald unfortunately cannot get rid of that memory.
It was kind of sad. It was kind of our fault.
It was real sad.
Sorry,
but
Gerald.
time passes, and eventually during the siege of Siniath, there is another Sword of Fortune that comes knocking, specifically looking for Vincent now.
Yeah, he showed up before the siege and basically threatened to kill Vincent.
Yeah, Renair saved you from either him killing you or you killing him.
Yeah, it was close.
Gondor is what his name was. Which
was.
I made one offhand comment about how he smelled not great, and now he's the stinkiest man. And
that dude that smells. You smell that?
Yeah.
Ew.
He was a loose cannon, constantly berating Vincent about not just about the murder of his former compatriot, but also about the amulet, in which you figured out there is a connection between the Swords of Fortune and the amulet.
But we can't discuss that, can we?
We're not too privy on exactly what that connection is, and that may come up later.
Yeah.
To give people some context, I think there is one other Sword of Fortune that Vincent knows of that was not present during the pre-campaign but could have been.
Yep.
But currently it is said, and this is knowledge that is way, way back. Literally, like pre-campaign, you'll have to check your notes. You actually know where this person is right now.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Yes. But the headmaster, like the official headmaster of the Magus Academy in Siniath, was a former member of the Swords of Fortune. And she is currently far off.
Vincent's terrified.
In another city that may or may not be quite nearby to Weldon. So,
also, side note, Vincent did kill a Gondor.
Yeah, that is something accidentally. This one also
bad roll.
It was
he
also
didn't want to.
Bad roll. It was you, like a little bit of losing that control again, but then also just a bad circumstance of wanting to knock him out before he escapes, because he very much was antagonizing the party and trying to throw them into danger, and like they didn't know if he was going to attack Vincent. He was a very powerful assassin rogue.
We just wanted to wipe his memory.
Exactly. They were going to try to wipe his memory, send him far off, and a couple bad rolls, knocked unconscious, death save, and
then Vincent losing control.
Yeah, and then a quick swish, and he was done. Which
horrifying for Vincent.
Renair took the fall for that and will not tell the Harpers who killed a Gondor and who did that. And he had his membership from the Harpers revoked because of that.
Renair.
I know. Yeah, Vincent was like, what the fuck?
He's like, no, I did it. And he's like, Vincent, I can't believe you're trying to protect me. And it's like, what? No. What? No.
There's a lot of angst, but it's a storyline that I personally like a lot.
Yeah.
Is the Swords of Fortune storyline. And it's a storyline maybe will come again.
Yeah. Just know, everyone, those things happened in the past. Vincent is so afraid of losing control. He doesn't know why. For some reason, he hates the Swords of Fortune.
Yeah. It's even outside of it,
he's so terrified of being his worst fear is becoming a monster, becoming a threat, hurting his friends, hurting people that don't deserve it. So now you know.
Now you know. And the more you know, because knowledge is power. All right, so I think we are about ready to wrap up this soft talk. There's been a lot of great content here, a lot of great questions. Thank you so much for answering all these amazing questions.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for asking the amazing questions, and Christian for your questions.
Absolutely.
I will literally always continue to talk about him. So
It is awesome. Can't wait till we reveal those blurry parts, because then there will be even more questions and even more answers, which is good. And so keep an eye out, because by the time this comes out, either the Weldon arc will have finished, or maybe we're still in it. I don't know. But I'm planning on having it finished by before this comes out, and we'll be moving towards the next arc, which at some point we will announce what that will look like and all that fun stuff. But please keep an eye out for that, and let us know what you think about the SOFTalk, about what you learned today, and possibly your theories, knowing some more details about the story behind Vincent.
thank you so much for caring about our show and our characters and our stories. It is kind of incredible that we are sitting here talking about things that we made, and that people are going to sit through it and listen to it and absorb the information.
Yeah, it's incredibly humbling. We love you all. We are having a great time here. And as of recording this, we're right about to jump into the final Battle of Weldon. So wish us luck.
We'll see what happens.
All right.
Maybe this will be your memoir.
I'll have it titled SOFTalk Vincent Memoir.
Oh boy.
Anyways, have a great day, evening, night, everyone.
Love you. Bye.